Video 17, the Planning Process and Committees Area 2 CHES Subcompetencies 2.1.1, 2.1.3. Review the learning objectives for this video. Now that you have built a strong foundation in needs assessment, let us move into one of the most important parts of your work as a health educator, which is the planning process. I want to walk you through this step by step because this sequence is heavily tested on the Certified Health Education Specialist exam, and understanding it deeply will serve you well. The first step is to identify the needs of the priority population, and this draws directly from the needs assessment data you gathered in Area 1. Think of it this way: without solid assessment data, every step that follows rests on an unstable foundation, so your assessment work really matters here. Next, you establish a planning committee made up of diverse stakeholders who bring different perspectives and expertise. This committee might include health professionals, community members, organizational leaders, and representatives from the priority population itself. From there, the committee defines the scope and sequence of the program, meaning what topics will be covered and in what order. For example, a diabetes prevention program might sequence content starting with nutrition basics, then physical activity, and finally self-monitoring skills. Then the team develops clear goals and measurable objectives that align with the identified needs. And finally, you select the strategies and interventions that will help achieve those objectives. Here's the key thing to remember. Each step builds on the previous one, creating a logical pathway from identified needs to a structured program plan. On the exam, you may be asked to identify which step comes first or what should happen before objectives are written. A common distractor might suggest writing objectives before forming a committee, but remember that needs assessment always drives the planning process, and stakeholder input shapes everything that follows. You are building a really solid understanding of how these pieces connect, so keep that momentum going. Let me walk you through one of the most commonly tested distinctions on the Certified Health Education Specialist exam, and that is the difference between a steering committee and an advisory board. Once you understand this clearly, you will feel so much more confident when you see it on exam day. A steering committee has actual decision-making power. This group guides the overall direction of the program and is held accountable for its outcomes. Steering committees tend to be smaller, typically consisting of 5 to 10 key stakeholders who are deeply invested in the program. For example, a steering committee for a workplace wellness program might include the human resources director, the medical director, a finance representative, and a union representative. These are the people who can approve budgets, allocate staff time, and authorize program changes. Now, in contrast, an advisory board provides recommendations but does not have binding authority over decisions. Advisory boards offer expert guidance and community perspectives that inform the planning process. They are often larger and more diverse to capture a wide range of viewpoints. An advisory board for that same workplace wellness program might include nutritionists, fitness experts, employee representatives from different departments, and community health advocates. Here is a helpful way to think about it. The steering committee drives the car, while the advisory board reads the map and suggests the best route. Both are essential for effective planning, but their roles are fundamentally different. On the exam, you might see this presented as a scenario where a group is described and you must identify whether it is a steering committee or advisory board. The key signal to look for is decision-making authority. When you see an exam question about who makes the final decision, the answer is almost always the steering committee. Keep that distinction in your back pocket because it will come in handy. This next point is something I really want you to take to heart because it is at the core of what makes health education effective. Meaningful stakeholder engagement needs to happen from the very beginning of your planning process, and here is why that matters so much to you as a health educator. When you include members of the priority population, their lived experiences shape the program design in ways you simply cannot achieve on your own. For instance, if you are planning a prenatal health program, including expectant mothers from the community ensures that your program addresses their actual concerns rather than assumptions made by professionals. You should also engage gatekeepers and community leaders who can facilitate access and build trust within the community. A gatekeeper might be a faith leader, a school principal, or a respected elder whose endorsement opens doors that would otherwise remain closed. Organizational decision makers need to be involved because they control resources and can authorize program activities. Cultural representation is critical to ensure the program is relevant and respectful of the community it serves. And perhaps most importantly, early engagement builds buy-in, which increases the likelihood that stakeholders will support the program through implementation and beyond. Without that buy-in, even the best designed program may struggle to gain traction when it comes time to launch. The National Commission for Health Education Credentialing emphasizes stakeholder involvement as a core competency because programs designed without community input often fail to address real needs. So let me leave you with this key takeaway. The earlier you involve stakeholders, the stronger your program foundation will be. On the exam, if a question asks, what should happen first in planning, look for answers that involve identifying and engaging stakeholders. Always remember that planning is not something done to a community, but rather done with a community. That philosophy will guide you well throughout your career. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is C. Because the group needs decision-making authority over budget and timeline, a steering committee is the appropriate structure. Advisory boards provide recommendations but lack binding authority. Focus groups gather data but do not guide program planning. Implementation teams execute plans but do not make high-level decisions. Summarize the key takeaways.